What's up, everybody? So, today we're going to be talking about peptides. A little bit more broad based. We're going to be talking about what they are, why everyone's basically losing their mind over them, and whether they'll turn you into Captain America or just a slightly improved version of your tired, caffeine addicted self. All right, so let's just start simple here. Basically, a peptide is a short chain of amino acids. Think of them as like the text messages of your body. Proteins, they're like the novels, like those really long text messages you get when you're fighting with your girlfriend. And then peptides, they're like the yo, bro, we lifting today type of short messages. They're usually between 2 to 50 amino acids, and they act as signaling molecules, meaning they just tell your cells to do things. Like burn fat, grow muscle, heal tissue, or if you're unlucky, grow a weird skin tag on your shoulder from sun damage. Yeah, the body is wild. All right, so I'm gonna do a little bit of a scientific fact drop here. All right, so peptides, they interact with GPCRs, RTKs, and metabolic pathways, influencing everything from mitochondrial function to GH secretion, GH being growth hormone. It's like giving your cells a motivational speech, except instead of saying, you can do it, it's literally flipping biochemical switches. Here's why peptides have exploded faster than a pre-workout dose teenager running to the bathroom. First thing is they actually work. In more specific context, like GH secretagogues, they boost growth hormone and IGF-1. They boost composition changes, right? That's been shown to change the body. They also show some really great recovery improvements and a ton of just overall skin benefits. And unlike supplements that promise to torch fat but literally only torch your wallet, peptides have actual clinical research behind them. Also, the biohacking industry discovered them, right? So these biohackers, they realized injecting amino acids made them feel optimized, I guess. So then they just started telling everybody on podcasts. So now your uncle, who still thinks creatine is a steroid, is asking you about BPC 157. And then, of course, social media just made them very appealing, right? Showing TikTok clips saying like, hey, just lost 20 pounds with peptides, or look at my skin glow, or I can regenerate like a salamander. And listen, I'd love to tell you that peptides are a miracle, but let's relax here. They're impressive overall, but it's not any type of Harry Potter level magic. Now, let's talk with some of the main types of peptides that have been getting a lot of, I would say, coverage on social media lately. We're going to start the first segment of this with basically the healing and recovery style peptides. The first one we have to mention is probably one of the more well-known ones, especially when it comes to healing and recovery, is BP157. Now, BP157, it's like that overly helpful friend who's always like, need help moving? Except it's helping your tissue regenerate. BP157 is actually derived from gastric juices. It sounds phenomenal. Also, it's shown to enhance angiogenesis. It also speeds up tendon and ligament repair while reducing inflammation. And gym bros love it because it actually lets them pretend like they don't need to rest. Spoiler, yes, you do. The next one we're going to talk about is TV500, which is basically thymosin beta-4. So if BP157 is the handyman of healing, TB500 is like the construction foreman. All right, so it's helping with the action regulation and cell migration. This helps with tissue repair, it increases cell movement, and improves wound healing. So similar to BP157. Unfortunately, it won't make your life move forward. That's still on you. Now let's get into talking about the fat loss and metabolic peptides. These have been extremely popular lately. I'm not going to talk about the semaglutides and retatrutides. I've done a deep dive video on the retatrutide. Actually, I've done 3 videos on that. I'll put the links in the description below so you can watch those. But I feel like there's so much information out there that we're going to jump to some of the different ones, okay? This one in particular I'm going to start with is AOD 9604. This is the fat-burning peptide that makes people think it's liposuction in a vial. This is actually a fragment of HGH, which is human growth hormone. It stimulates lipolysis and inhibits lipogenesis. It's basically like HGH said, okay, hey, listen, I'll help you with fat loss, but none of that insulin or growth plate drama. Now, this one I've also done a couple videos on as well, but it's got to be one to mention because I don't feel there's as much information about this out there yet as there is with like the semaglutides and the tirzepatides and whatnot. But this one is MOTS-C. Okay, so MOTS-C, MOTS-C, this works with mitochondrial level, okay, or at the mitochondrial level, which is basically like hacking your body's battery pack. This inhibits AMPK activation. It also increases energy expenditure while improving glucose utilization. Again, I did a couple videos on this. I'll also put those in the description below. Check those out, okay? Some pretty good information on this particular peptide. In short, though, this peptide actually just kind of makes your body act like it has its life together. Now let's get into some of the muscle growth peptides. Now these are the very exciting ones, especially if you're into like bodybuilding or fitness and whatnot, okay? The first one we're going to talk about is CJC-1295 plus Ipamorelin, okay? So these two together are like the power couple, have you? Beyonce and Jay-Z, peanut butter and jelly, a gym bro with a stringer tank top. This is actually shown to increase the GH pulse amplitude while increasing IGF-1, and it gives you better sleep overall, and it improves fat oxidation. It's basically tricking your pituitary gland into thinking that you're still 18. Now let's talk about IGF-1 LR3. Now, IGF-1 LR3, it's like muscle hyperdrive, but it comes with some responsibilities. Not only is this one potent and pretty long lasting, it actually stimulates satellite cell proliferation and it influences hypertrophy pathways. It's pretty cool, this one. Look a little bit more into this one, or suggest I make a deep dive video on this and I'll do so. Now, this ain't no creatine. This is some grown man science. Let's talk about why peptides are mostly legal, but also kind of not. Peptides kind of sit in this weird space where they're not FDA approved for bodybuilding. They're allowed for research. They're discussed in podcasts like they're candy, and they're sold online by websites that look like they were created in 2004. Translation, people are using them, but technically your research shouldn't involve bicep curls. Now let's briefly talk about if peptides are safe and what potential side effects can come along with some of these. Now, peptides are usually well tolerated, but I'm going to go over some of the stuff that the influencers aren't telling you about because it hurts sales. This is very broad-based, going over a wide variety of peptides and what can come along with some of them. So this isn't specific, it's a little bit more generalized, but some of the side effects that you could potentially encounter are maybe like water retention with some of these, carpal tunnel symptoms, especially with those GH or growth hormone peptides. Some of them can elicit nausea, some blood sugar changes. Of course, injection site irritation, that's going to be with most of them because most of these you have to inject. Also, some increased hunger depending on what the peptide is, and possible IGF-1 complications. If you're injecting anything, okay, rule number one, don't be an idiot, okay? Sterile needles, actual medical supervision, and preferably not buying peptides from a guy named Chad in the gym bathroom. But honestly, here are some of the real reasons why peptides actually just blew up, okay? Number one, they bridge the gap between supplements and steroids. They're not as harsh as anabolic steroids. They're more effective than most supplements that you could buy at your local vitamin store. They also actually target specific biological pathways like fat loss without raising cortisol, or muscle signals without suppressing testosterone, or tissue healing without taking any type of painkillers. They're also pretty customizable, okay? You can stack peptides like Legos depending on whatever your goals are. And let's face it, people want shortcuts, and peptides feel like shortcuts, okay? So even though they still require lifting, eating protein, and sleeping more than 4 hours a night, they do get you to your goal faster. Let's talk about if you should use peptides. And remember, I'm not recommending you use peptides. I'm just giving you some educational information and you can do with what you want with it. Remember, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a pharmacist, none of that stuff. Just providing you with some helpful information in case you're deciding on venturing down this avenue, okay? But let me just say this, if you're watching this for medical advice, you've made several questionable choices. But I'm going to break it down anyway for you. Now, peptides may be useful for you, especially if you're older and your GH levels are declining, which they naturally do as you get older anyway. Maybe you have some stubborn injuries that you're looking to heal or recover from. You maybe want help with body composition. That would be a great way. And of course, you're supervised by your doctor. But I would say stay away from them if you think they're going to replace training, you want overnight results, or you can't handle needles, all right? Also, if you still think pre-workout tingles are dangerous, peptides are not for you. So that's the truth about peptides. They're powerful, they're extremely interesting, and they're not going away. They're kind of like the Marvel Cinematic Universe of fitness, right? Some hits, some misses, some things that you should never inject ever again. So if you enjoyed this peptide deep dive, please do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. It really helps my channel with the algorithm so that my videos can be posted for you guys to watch. Also, drop a comment on whatever peptide you want me to go through next, and I'll make a full video on it. All right, so with that, we'll see you on the next one. Coach Mark, out.